My name is Andy Slessing. I grew up in North Carolina and went to school in Georgia and then wound up out here in the Arctic tundra that is Iowa for work with John Deere. I think it was the first Sunday that I was in Iowa. Somebody had told me, hey, you should check out Prairie Lakes, because they knew I was looking around for a church. And walked through the door, and the first person that I met was Jim Handorf. So he was behind the welcome desk or whatever it was. So I walked over and he shook my hand and introduced himself and gave me a little box of goodies with a coffee mug and a free cookie, and proceeded to show me to the cafe, get me hooked up with a cup of coffee, and basically introduced me to the entire church that first weekend.
Hello, my name is Ben Schmidt. I'm from Keswick, Iowa, and I graduated from the University of Northern Iowa in 2008. When I was a freshman in college, that's when I accepted Christ as my Savior, and I got invited to this Bible study, and I was the youngest one. I was 20 years old, and the next one was about 40, and then on up, all the way up to about 80 years old, and Jim was there. And so I met Jim through this Bible study, and right away he came and he kind of took me under his wing, and he asked me about my faith, and just started to encourage me with getting in the Word, encouraged me in my prayer life. He always carried a little prayer card in his front pocket, because he prayed all the time, and really I began to learn what a man of God looked like.
Jim was the guy that every man should strive to be like when he grows old. He was the guy who cared about everyone. He knew everyone. He knew everyone by name, what they did, where they went to high school, who was in their family, what their family did, and what connections you might have with them. And he genuinely cared. He wanted to know how I was doing, how my fiance at the time was doing. When she came down, wanted to be sure and meet her. He wanted to meet her family, wanted to meet my family. He just wanted to know everything about your life, because he took a genuine interest in who you were and who you were becoming.
Okay, my name is Nancy Handorf. I'm Jim Handorf's wife, and I've lived here in Iowa in this home for over 40 years. I'm originally from Oregon, but Iowa is now my home. Ben and Andy have really been a blessing to our lives. I think older people should know that contacts with younger people are really, really a blessing to the older people. Jim and I were both teachers, have both been interested in younger people throughout our lives. And Ben and Andy have just always been so very special. I love the fact that they call me Grandma. I like to remember that Andy came over one day and took me for a motorcycle ride. And I remember that Ben and I watched a movie one night that turned out to be in Japanese, and we finally gave up, with subtitles, finally gave up in the middle of it. But they have been such good friends, and we did attend both of their weddings, loved their brides, and now I have 2 more grandchildren. Jim died on January 1st in 2008. We would have been married 45 years in April of that year. We didn't quite make it to our 45th wedding anniversary, but at one point, after Andy's wedding, actually, I had to rush him to a hospital in Wisconsin. And while he was still unconscious, one of the nurses asked me how long we'd been married, and I said 43 years. And the next morning, he said, you know, when that nurse asked you last night, you forgot we had an anniversary. We've been married 44 years. So he was keeping track.
When Jim passed away, I had lost my grandfather. I mean, it was very, very real. And that was so real because Jim had loved me like he had loved his grandson. I mean, I was his kid, his grandkid. He had taken that much of an interest in my life. And we had that close of a bond that it was a really tough time.
Well, I think relationships across generations are very important. I think both the older and the younger encourage each other, and it's refreshing to see their younger viewpoints, and it's helped me in my Christian walk, just seeing young people that are such strong Christians. I did not know people at that age who were strong Christians when I was growing up, and it's just remarkable to me to see them blossoming in their Christian faith and in their walk.